Let's Talk Music comes back to you again, and we're here interviewing some fantastic people. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Charles Mann, and we're going to get this party started right. We probably got another brother that's going to be joining us soon, but Charles, go ahead and introduce the people that we're working with today so we can tell this music history for Richmond, Virginia.
This is about the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Live bands were the thing in the Richmond, Virginia area during that time period. Any number of bands were working clubs like the Devil's Club, Ebony Island, Sahara Club, Darius Club, Ovaltines, Bill Jones, Mousetrap, and not to mention Third World, not to mention all of the Bowling Green area, big bands and small combos. So let me go with Charles first. Introduce yourself. Give me a little background real quick, all in a nutshell. Who are you and what did you do during that time?
Wow. Well, first of all, I'm just want to say thank you for even allowing me to be a part of this set right here. You know, I'm really honored. I really am. Name is Charles Thompson. Of course, back then, the street gave me the name as Lil Charles or quote unquote James Brown Jr. You know that. So, and I always tell people, it's only one James Brown. All I can do as an artist is salute the artist. I can't be James Brown, but the street didn't care. I was still James Brown Jr. regardless. So I had to accept that, and I'm okay with that, you know. But I started with this band called the Mach 1 Band. That was my first band, Mr. Fleming, who's passed now. That's probably was fresh out of Eastern Junior High, East End on 37th Street. Yeah,
and high school,
Armstrong.
There you go.
And they'd always have this annual talent show, and so finally I got into it, and then I knew then that's who I was. Entertainment, you know, and so my background really comes from dancing more than just singing. I started singing later because I started creating to sort of duplicate James Brown voice and got pretty good at it. But then as I traveled through the years, I was Mach 1 Band. Of course, I played with y'all before, you know that. I did a lot of spot shots, just being in the audience, like, hey man, come and do James Brown. I did that, you know. Outside of that, I think I told you on my email, the most important band that I really played with that really gave me that concept of what I'm in today as I'll say semi-professional artist, I'll say that right now, is Stacey Henry and Majestic. I played with a lot of bands in between, but I was only a guest artist. But as far as road band, Mach 1, this Stacey Henry, drummer Elwood Henderson saw me on Broad Street downtown when they had Murphys and Woolworth. We go back, and he said, man, look, I've been looking for you. Now, I was fresh out of high school now. He said, man, Stacey do James Brown, but man, you can do James Brown. You can dance and blah, blah, blah. I said, man, well, you know, I love to do it, but I don't want to get a Stacey place now. That's his band. He said, no, we are Stacey waiting on you. And the rest is history. I rode with them guys, man, for about 5 to 8 years on the road. So I got the idea of feeling what it feels like. You talking about a horn section, Bill, you understand, and Percy. I mean, he had the bass sax, the alto sax, the tenor sax. He had at least 5 to 6 horns. When you have that section like that, you in it, you know.
Right.
And so I was really excited about that, you know, and I did that for, like I said, between 5 and 8 years.
So when did you finish high school, and what did you start working with Stacey?
I came out of high school in 1973.
My name is Percy Minor, and I started, man, back in the late 60s. Oh man, great day. I met so many wonderful cats, man. And you know, I've been around playing with so many people, man. I wouldn't know what to. I went to Blackwell School. I went to George Wythe.
Oh, okay.
Then I went to Maggie Walker for a little bit.
All right.
And from there, I went to John Tyler Community College for a bit. And then I started gigging with a brand called Charisma. But to start off, I started with Fred Day, man. I was with the Devil's Workshop.
So name some of the guys in the Devil's Workshop if you can remember.
Devil's Workshop was William Perry, played drum.
Okay.
Then they were before I got in there, they were Zeke and the Soul Suckers.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
Right.
So,
I remember that.
Yeah. Then I guess, you know, you would, because I was a young cat. And let's see, it was Deron Parker, Aaron Robinson, had a singer named Pinky. Then you had Herman Charity.
Oh, Charity from Charleston.
Then we had a guy named Avery playing keyboard. We played behind the 4 Flights High.
Yeah, they were quite a quartet, man.
Oh man, we was on the road together with Stacey.
We had a cat by the name came in one time named Buster White. Then they had another guy named LT came in and sang for a little while. LT and his brother.
So now, when you were with Charisma, who were some of the guys with Charisma?
Well, the founding members of Charisma was Linwood Ross,
Bubba,
and Charles Thompson.
Okay.
Guy named Bud played bass. Louis Land.
Okay.
Louis Land. Then they were the founding members. Then they had a cat before they changed. They was the Marvelous Souls at first.
Marvelous
Soul. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Marvelous Souls.
But they had a guy who did James Brown too. Lee
yeah,
singer.
then you had what you call Marvelous Maxie.
Yeah, Marvin Maxie. Yeah.
Wow.
They did,
so y'all know you're talking late 70s, late 60s, early 70s because
early 70s, yeah. Between 75 and 76, something like that. Yeah.
Percy, who else was in Charisma?
Then it was myself, Willie Edwards.
What was that? Demetrius Johnson was playing saxophone.
That was Doug Sneed playing.
Sneed.
Oh, Doug Sneed. Doug Sneed.
Yeah.
He was really good at being Maceo.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Maceo, man.
Strong funk line. Then we had this guy we called Duke Jennings, Steve Jennings.
Okay.
Chicago, him and his brother.
Jennings brothers, right? From Chicago, right?
We had Anthony Ingram.
Oh yeah, guitar. Yeah, I went to school with him. Yeah.
Then of course Tyrone Durham played with him because I ended up stealing Anthony and Tyrone from that group.
Yeah, we remember that.
Yeah.
Back then, that was going on a lot.
Y'all haven't forgot it, right, Percy?
Well, I was scouting to do some changes in Brother Love. I think who we were Eugene at the time. Wow. So I was scouting to make some changes. We had just signed a record deal with Atlantic. Right. And we were moving to Atlantic, and so we had to change the name again. And I said, well, this is a good time for me to make a little fresh thing. So that's when I went out and grabbed Anthony and Tyrone as a musician at that young age. They were ready.
Wow.
And fantastic. This was I just thought it'd be a good opportunity for them to make that transition. And I'm really glad I did it.
Jose had us opening up shows at one time. They thought we was Jose's band, that green and white, great big green and white Cadillac he used to drive.
Right.
They thought we was his band, but actually we had another manager. We did a lot of work for him, which gave us a lot of exposure.
Who was the other manager?
A guy named Plum, named Luther.
Yeah, okay. I remember Luther. Yeah.
Luther Plum, right.
Charles, let me get back to something. You said something about playing with Mr. Fleming and the Mark I band. Was that Fleming? Was he a guitar player?
No, Mr. Fleming was just a manager.
He was a manager. Okay.
The guys in the band, I would think out there. I can't think of all the guys. I know a couple of guys already passed on. Okay. I can't think of their names, but his name was Willie Fleming, Sr. The last band I played with before I came here was Claxton Brown, both.
Oh wow! Okay.
And they again another road band. All we did was this road. Very few shows in the city. Very few.
Percy, you still playing, right?
Yeah.
I know. What group are you playing with now?
I'm playing with a group called Another Level. It's Kevin Pryor's band. That's what I'm working for.
I'll tell you another guy that we need to give respect to for that time period is Joe Turnage.
Oh no! Oh yeah. Yes.
He was so supportive of Richmond musicians.
Oh yeah.
In general, he didn't care who you were or what you were doing. He was just so supportive of the music and whatever they were doing. The live WANT radio station used to go there with Ben Miles and
all
the other guys in the earlier days. Tom, all these guys, man. And so Joe was a big influence on that Richmond scene.
He really was.
So when we get around to doing our tribute show to all those who have passed and gone before us, and that's what this whole thing is about. It's about gathering that information and recognizing some folks who just didn't, their name hasn't been called in a while.
And see, Charles, that's what I appreciate about what you just did, and Percy, what you did and what we're all doing is when you just speak in the case of what we're doing by this being recorded, when you just speak a person's name, it means that they will live on.
There you go.
Because this recording will live on. And when we say Joe Turnage and we talk about all the contributions that he made, and Mr. Barkey, of course, I found out recently, I don't know if anybody knew this, Mr. Barkey went to Virginia State.
while we shout them out, can't forget about Joe Kennedy. You know.
And don't forget, oh, that's my teacher.
Yes.
But please don't forget Lil Walter.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
The very first
Please
live
reach
band
out
I
to
ever
Lil
saw
Walter.
at age 13 was Little Walter and the
Lil Walter.
Bonnevilles.
Yeah.
I was 13 years old, 10 West Lee, up those steps, up
them
on the
steps,
second
brother.
floor.
Everybody know them steps.
Let me tell you,
Everybody remember them steps.
And we can't forget Lil Tommy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Can't
Lil
forget
Tommy.
him.
Oh my God, Lil Tommy was a legend.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he was truly a showman.
Yeah.
Truly a showman.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
But-
Black
but,
and Billy Baker.
I got to remember my boy August anytime.
Always
August Moon.
Moon. Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
You know, you got to give credit to the mayor of Hall Street. No
He
doubt.
helped me a lot too. He helped me a lot too, man.
Well, we can't leave out Joe and Tom, Joe Carter and Tom
Tom
Seavers.
Seavers, Joe Carter.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way you can go in a conversation about music in general for that area without mentioning Joe Carter and Tom Seavers and what
right.
they were trying to do
Right.
with their agency.
Charles, what are you doing now? What did you say you were telling us a little bit earlier something about what you're doing
Well,
now?
I have a CD. The first CD is called Smooth Jazz Vibration, #1.
Okay.
That's already out now on all streaming networks, and that did real good. I got
And is it under your name?
under my name, Charles Thompson. Yeah. My
Okay.
label is
And
Charles Thompson
what are you
Music.
doing on it mostly?
I play piano.
Okay.
Okay. And,
Okay.
and of course, I'm a singer first,
Right.
but I came here to write music, so I want to write for other artists.
Percy, you were telling us about working with
I work with another level, Kevin Price playing
Kevin.
trumpet and background vocals, some lead
Okay.
vocals.
Okay, who's playing keyboard?
Right now, they're using a guy named Chris Beasley. He's using some type of keyboard patch on his guitar.
On his guitar.
Okay. Wow.
Right, and it's phenomenal. He has a vast knowledge of.
He's a phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah, bad boy. He's a quad.
Like Anthony, he was a young guitar player, and I don't remember who the bass player was. Is he was a
Kermit.
Who it was a Kermit. Kermit, right?
Kermit and Stanley played drums.
Right.
And then you
right.
have Vincent Davis playing bass.
Well, this does take me back a ways, fellas. You guys have mentioned a lot of names that I had forgotten, of course, and particularly of the bands.
Most young guys who are prone to do music start around the 8th grade. You decide who you're going to be, and that's that 8th through 12th grade, okay? Then after you get out of high school, you either go to college or you hit the gig circuit.
Another thing, Bill, is that what I realized is that there were really 3 distinct areas of performers.
Right.
One, you had the street performers,
Right.
then you had the academic guys, then you had the church guys. I started realizing that I knew people in different genres in their pursuit. So during those different cycles, what I noticed was the overlap of musicians in the different lanes, so to speak.
Right.
Percy, did you ever record at Apple Audio? Percy, you ever recorded over there?
Now we recorded over at what you call Eastern Recording Studio.
Eastern out off Midlothian.
Yeah.
We recorded at Eastern. We couldn't afford Alpha like Charles and them. See, they were high dollar band, man. Eugene and the Brother Love and them.
Yeah,
They were
I
they
think
were the
you need
cream
to
of the
real
crop in
secret
Richmond,
on that.
boy.
We became the studio band for Apple Audio when they first opened the door
Okay.
because everybody could read charts. We did all the commercials for the advertising agency that they had downstairs. Dwight became the house arranger, and he was writing the string parts and the whole bit. We played on everything. We sung on a lot of commercials.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Leroy McNeil, Clem Johnson of JTL Band. Played keyboard with Lil Walter, played with everybody.
Okay.
This is so blessed because we all got a chance to see one another. Hey, one more time in the live thing.
Yes.
So many people have passed away, man.
That's Charles and Percy. That's one of the reasons we're doing this is because Charles and I have the fortunate of for the last few years being very close to Joe Carter. He and I both were very close to Joe, and then he and I both are very close to August Moon. So as we talked, Charles shared with me that he didn't play saxophone in school. I was surprised, but he shared me that story with me that he played clarinet. He was a clarinet player, and I know from history, like you do, Percy, clarinet player is always the best musicians in the band, and Rita.
Yeah.
And then he played in the orchestra also.
Yes.
You know,
I played the marching band. I played orchestra.
he played in the orchestra. So musicianship wise, you understand that Charles, even though he says he didn't play saxophone, you know, in school like that, that he had a solid musicianship background in, you know, the ability to read music and play classical music. So that all that stuff transferred over. It gave me a better understanding as to, you know, how he was able to play so well and solidly. And I always acknowledge on these meetings that one of the things, Charles and Percy, I liked about Charles Mann and Ujima is they were very much what I call in the box. In other words, they ain't never let it get but so wild and crazy.
Right.
The harmonies were always tight. The sound was always balanced. And he and Alvin were always playing the right notes. Some of the rest of us got a little freaky on stage, you know what I'm saying? But I had to give it to them. They always, and that's what made so many of us respect them.
They were polished.
So much. That's a perfect word for it.
That's the word. They were polished.
They were extreme, well polished.
Yeah.
And Charles is a big part of that because knowing him for the years that I've known him, I realized that he kind of like kept all them other cats, you know, and he and Dwight both, because I have to give it to Dwight. Dwight was not one to venture outside the lines either much.
No,
Not at all.
Hell of a musician. But he kept it within the lines. You ain't gonna expect Dwight to get but so crazy.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Quiet spirit.
that made it tight.
Yeah, but they were
Yeah.
tight.
That made it tight.
And Alvin the same way.
Oh yeah, very disciplined. Very disciplined.
Alvin was a typical a family man, you know, quiet, whatever else.
But as strong an emphasis as we put on the instrumentation, we put that same emphasis on the vocal.
Right.
That it had to be tight.
Right.
That it had to represent
Oh yeah.
clarity and distinctiveness. And I mean, we put a lot of emphasis on that to make sure that nobody up there screaming. Everybody's singing within that range. Everybody's doing harmonically things that work and blend. You know,
and then y'all was smart enough not to let certain folks sing. Like I know that only, and when I think about you all, for the most part, I know that you, Dwight, Clement, and Carlton, and then when you added Debbie, I don't remember Anthony or Alvin doing this singing. Chauncey sang, and then
when all the oh yes and yeah, right.
Don't sing.
And then when Ernest Green was with you all, y'all had
Ernest did sing.
Yeah,
Ernest did sing. He was a very good drummer, but Chauncey was a good background singer
singer, right?
But it was just risky to leave a mic on with Chauncey because he also introduced other noises that I had a problem with.
You talking about that? He'd be back there humming and
oh, buddy. Chauncey was back there grooving while he playing drum.
but y'all think about that, man. When we just named Dwight, Charles, Clement, and Carlton, and then you had Debbie. And you had that 5-part that harmony that makes every band great, where you got 4 solid harmony parts and a lead singer.
Don't care who's leading. Don't care who's leading.
So harmony still right there.
When Carlton's leading, you still got 4 parts. When Charles leading, you got 4 parts. With Debbie leading, you got 4 parts. And Lord have mercy, when Clem was leading, you had 4 parts.
That's right.
So that's what made that group so, man, I don't know any other groups around here that had that many talented vocals, you know what I'm saying? Starfire did pretty good like that. Poison didn't have as solid.
They had 2 strong vocals in
Poison. They had 3. They had 3. They had the girl,
Marshall, Janet,
and Melvin when he was with them. Do you remember Reggie sang at all?
No, Reggie didn't sing.
Reggie didn't sing, right?
Yeah,
and I know Debo didn't sing a note.
No.
That if I remember correctly, Debo had never sing anything, did it?
Debo didn't sing. David Brown didn't sing.
Right.
But David had a good voice. David was very good, like a Curtis Mayfield style
vocalist. He wouldn't sing, huh?
Yeah, but for some reason, I had people that could sing that were scared of the microphone. I mean, they didn't want the spotlight.
Well, David wouldn't have talk.
Yeah, right.
No,
He was bad at talk.
David a quiet spirit, man. He really will always have.
He wouldn't have talk.
Yeah. Extremely good guitar player. Lord,
Yes.
Oh yeah, clean, knew all the chords.
Very tight with all chord changes.
Yeah.
Very distinct. I mean,
and real like discipline. He won't flash it.
Right.
That's right.
He'll just play like this.
Never wild on his own.
Right.
I had to hold Anthony back. Because Anthony, I tell Anthony, give me 8 bars. He got to turn it into 32. He just don't believe in 8-bar solo.
Little Jimi Hendrix, I call.
Oh my God!
I went to school with Anthony. I said, I know him.
Always hype, always energetic. Anthony played like a 45-year-old when he was 15.
Right.
He knew that guitar inside and out. He just teared it apart.
But you know what, y'all?
Yeah.
A lot of us was in it back in the day, starting the 60s, out of the love for doing it. Because we all struggled a lot because we didn't have knowledge. We was all still learning. And we were basically learning from y'all. Older cats had been out there. We was actually learning from y'all. So getting bands started the cohesiveness was really there from the love of doing it. A lot of us, we didn't know what we was doing a lot of times, but we tried to be like Rujima or Brother Love or Trussell or what happened is, or other groups we heard, but we was out there, we get together, like they call it garage bands. Some of us was backyard bands.
Right.
Some of us was living room bands.
Yeah.
Well, Percy, I'm gonna share with you and Charles the same thing that Charles Mans and I talk about, which is that we grew up in an era of transition. That's when you look at the transition, the summer of '69, the year people landed on the moon. But y'all were in high school. Y'all were in, you were coming out of high school. You were learning to, instead of being ready to be a backup band or something, you were learning to be a performing artist.
That's right.
And that's what, and everybody that came after that, you think about War, the Ohio Players, Mandrill, we just go down the list, the Commodores, everybody that came after that, that was the end of the backup band. In your life, what event took place that left a mark on you musically?
Well, mine is simple. Mine is very easy. I mean, James Brown, I got to see James Brown at your college, Virginia State College.
Okay.
When I was young.
72, 71, before then.
Earth, Wind & Fire came down early part.
All of 72.
Right. When they had the girls singing lead and where the flowers gone.
Right. Jessica
and then
Cleave.
James Brown came a few years later. I forgot what time. But the song he had out was I Want to Give and Do My Thing. That song right there, right? And I had just started doing his voice, right? And so, but back then I was known for just dancing. And man, I got there and it's like, of course in the church you say Holy Spirit. It's like some kind of spirit came over me and I started dancing while James Brown on stage. Wow. And so people said like, what's going on? So James Brown stopped and looking like, what's going on? Brown, because Brown was very jealous of you doing what he does.
Sure.
Right. I got to meet him personally, with Maceo. And Maceo said, man, well, I'm gonna let you meet him. He said, but he's very jealous of somebody doing his voice. But I said, well, I want to meet him. So anyway, I met him there. Anyway, but I'm on the floor dancing while he's on stage. He just stopped and looked and said, wow. Because the people on the floor, because gymnasium,
they got spread out and let you do your thing.
And they just let me just did it. And I was like, boy, you crazy. This is James Brown's show. But Brown was nice enough to, when I got finished, he said, give him a round of applause, like that. And so that was an impact that I would never forget.
Yeah.
From that point. And seeing him live at the mosque, I had to go to the mosque. It called mosque back then. I had to go to the first show, go outside, and come back into the second show.
Right.
Yeah. What I liked about James Brown was that he had this thing. He said, whenever you're on stage, when you make a mistake, for the most part, nobody know but you. And he said, you got a half a second to decide, repair or replace.
Okay.
I use that every day when I write music. When I'm performing now, I still keep that in my spirit, in my head, that no one knows because it's your music. See?
Right.
So I'm playing myself live. You don't know it. You know, until you become number one. You got a half a second to show that you messed up or not. That's how when you entertain, when you perform. So that had an impact on my life. And from that point on, everything I do, I'm doing smooth jazz now, but it still plays the same. Always stay sharp on what you're doing. Stay professional. And James Brown taught me that role from that point.
Cool. Percy, what about you?
Well, what was really a mark for me is when Kool and the Gang. That
Okay.
was one of my favorite groups, man. Kool and the Gang. And
Group out of New Jersey.
we had the pleasure of opening for them in Mobile, Alabama. We did a little touring with them, and we was just opening act. And I met Kool, and I met the whole group.
How long ago was this?
This was back in 1974.
So Spike was still alive.
Spike was still alive.
Yeah, but
Spike was still alive. Yeah, fantastic trumpet player, man.
and a nice guy, man.
Oh, I wish I could have talked longer with him. You know.
Yeah, he didn't talk a lot. He was a lot like Alvin. Spike didn't talk a lot, but he was very warm. You know what I'm saying?
Nice guy.
When you approached him, he was very warm, and he was not he wasn't kind of standoffish at all, man. He smiled, and he was a very warm kind of cat, man. That's good.
Fellas, let me tell you how much appreciate the time you spent with us.
Thank you, man.
We got to move on to another one.
Thank you
Man,
so
let me
much.
tell you, you guys brought up some history for us that I really appreciate. And so it is a pleasure speaking with you, and I'll let you know when we get together.
Charles and Percy, thank you all for joining us. We truly appreciate having a chance to do this.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Hey, man, glad to see y'all, man.